You now carry around in your pocket access to all human knowledge. There is no longer an excuse for being an idiot. June 26, 2014 on the People's Radio!
The People's Radio is an experimental technocratic media format for the working class. The thoughts and opinions expressed on the People's Radio are not necessarily the thoughts and opinions of Organizing for Humanity, of the People's Radio, or of anyone else. Viewer discretion is advised.
Let's start off today by talking about idiots. Stupid idiots. Anti-vaccinators. The anti-vaccine crowd. These people are idiots. No, vaccines do not give your child autism. Vaccines are not overloading your child's immune system. Vaccines are not full of poison. I could say this over and over and over and over and over again, but these idiots will never listen. It all goes back to a superstitious belief. Human beings have a fault in their logic. Sometimes they learn something and it's wrong. And they learned it through an anecdotal incident or anecdotal evidence. An example of that would be these anti-GMO people who believe that GMO is poison, right? Or creationists. It's all superstition at the end of the day. All of it. They, in the words of Sam Harris, how can you reason someone out of a position they did not use reason to get themselves into in the first place? And that's a good quote. And I constantly go back to that quote because I need to be reminded. Arguing with these anti-intellectuals, these anti-science morons, is like banging your head against the wall. They will never listen to you. There is no evidence on planet Earth that you could supply them that would convince them that vaccines are safe. Because they have a fervent belief that vaccines are poison. The anti-GMO people, you can explain to them genetics. You can try to explain to them that all food is genetically modified. You can try to explain that to them. But it just goes in one ear and out the other. They do not listen. There is no paper, no study that you can show them that says, here's independent testing. It shows that this food is safe. They've been testing it for 15 plus years. The food is safe. They don't listen. They go, oh, nope. I don't believe you because I have this one blog over here by this one concerned mom, and she says vaccines are poison and that GMO food is unsafe, and I'm going to listen to her over the scientists. This is how they think. This is how they reason. There's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it. Let me tell you how to discern the truth. Listener, go to the science. When you're reading an article or blog post or something like that, when you're reading new study says blah, 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 right? When it says study and there's a line under it, it's normally because it's a link to go to that study. Click that link. Go to the source. Find the source. Find the study. Read it for yourself. Because for one thing, especially in America, the media is notorious for getting science wrong, reporting on it wrongly. That's the reason why you keep hearing every week, oh, scientists discovered cure for cancer. But then when you actually go and look up the study, it's, oh, well, no, they found this chemical that has anti-tumor properties and they might be able to use it in conjunction with something else to help strengthen it years down the road once they refine it and further test it. That happens weekly in the United States. You'll just get a standard study where they'll have an advancement. They'll have new knowledge gained about cancer therapy or a new potential drug, a potential compound to fight cancer, to fight tumors. And then the news media, and this is the reason why it happens. The news media is not there to inform you. The news media now exists to get hits, to get clicks, to get viewership, to get ratings, to sell newspapers. They do not exist to inform you. They exist to push their message and to get subscribers and to get money. It's all about money. So the most sensationalist headline wins. So the study might say, doctors find this anti-tumor property in this compound or in this drug that they didn't previously know existed. They may be able to use that in the future in some cancer therapies. And then the media goes, cure for cancer discovered! Magical cure for cancer discovered! Why are scientists and doctors keeping this cure from you and your family? Find out tonight at 9 o'clock. Tune in. Tune in at 9 so that we can feed you endless commercials and try to sell you a new car. Try to sell you some fast food. Try to sell you this flavor of soda. Try to sell you the furniture store down the street that's having a going out of business sale. Consume, Americans, consume. Be afraid and consume. Use that credit card. But anyway, the anti-intellectuals. Let me tell you where it stems from. And a lot of people can talk about the MMR study, the Andrew Wakefield study, and I'll explain that real quick. There was a study that came out that said that vaccines may possibly be linked to the rise in autism, and everybody went apeshit. They went crazy. They were like, oh my God, it makes perfect sense. We're vaccinating our kids, and our kids are becoming autistic. And then Jenny McCarthy jumped on the bandwagon, and she wrote a book where she was like, I saw it with my own eyes. I took my child to the doctor, and he was fine. And then they gave him a shot, and then he came home, and he was autistic. Now, it turns out that her son's not even autistic, because she's just been lying this whole time. But whatever. So people jumped on the bandwagon. She sold a couple of books. I remember when these books came out, and they sold like crazy. I mean, they were selling almost like Harry Potter numbers, you know what I mean? Everybody wanted to hear what Jenny McCarthy had to say about autism. And that's when you know society is going downhill. That's when you know. When the public at large wants to hear a former Playboy pinup, wants to hear her opinion on science over the scientists, and her opinion on medical science over doctors, that's when you know the people at large are messed up. That's why I can't support democracy anymore. I just can't. I support the democratic process as long as the people are informed and they know what they're voting on. But all you have to do is spend 5 minutes talking to people today, and I guarantee you, no matter who you are, no matter what position you have, if you spend 5 minutes talking to somebody else on Facebook, you're going to discover that they have an opinion on something and they're grossly misinformed, or they're ignorant and they have no idea what they're talking about, and they've just been fed some lie from some political side, whether it be Fox News or MSNBC, somewhere, they have formed an incoherent, ignorant opinion. I'm telling you, how can we expect the democratic process to work when we're all idiots? I don't get it. I don't get it. Because like 25% of Americans still believe that Obama is from Kenya. I mean, he was born in Hawaii. It was announced in a Hawaiian newspaper, but he was born in Kenya. That doesn't even make sense. I guess the newspaper was broadcasting his Kenyan birth in Hawaii. That don't even make sense. Whatever. Anyway, so these anti-vaccinators are dangerous to society. Extremely dangerous to society. We just had a measles outbreak in Minnesota. Over 3,000 people were exposed to measles. And they traced it back to one unvaccinated child that actually went to Kenya. It's a coincidence. I was just talking about Kenya. This child went to Kenya with his parents, come back home. It was unvaccinated and exposed 3,000 people to it. I think there was 26 people that had outright full-blown measles. 16 of those were unvaccinated. These anti-science people, these anti-science, I can't say it enough. They're a danger to you and me. It's just like the gun nuts. It's just like the gun nuts. Today, there was a woman. 4 children were playing outside her home with super soakers. And she didn't like that. So she went running outside with a real gun, started waving it around, telling the kids to go away, and she fired a shot at the children. Where in the Second Amendment does it say we have the right to give guns to morons and idiots who are going to be irresponsible with them? Because I didn't read that in the Second Amendment. Whatever. Anyway, I digress. I'm jumping topics today. I gotta stay focused. But it all stems to anti-science. These people don't trust the science. They don't trust the doctors. They don't trust scientists. They don't get it. They don't understand that science is the most powerful method that we have currently for discerning what is true. It is a measuring stick of truth. We don't have anything else on the planet that shows us truth the way science does. And if you disagree with that, well, show me a religious cult that has built a rocket ship and gone to the moon. Show me a superstitious tribe that has created airplanes and flown around. Science works, and we see the product of science every single day in multiple ways. Are you carrying a cell phone around in your pocket right now? Do you have a smartphone? That is science, man. That was put together with empirical science, empirical research. Computers didn't just spring up because Jesus wrote it down in the Bible. Scientists figured that crap out over hundreds of years. We are all standing on the shoulders of men who came before us and women that came before us, and they figured out things, and they wrote them down. What an amazing thing a book is when you think about it. Carl Sagan talked about that in the original Cosmos. What an amazing thing a book is. It is a way for me to write down my thoughts and my knowledge, and that knowledge is logged away so that it can reach out over hundreds of years if necessary, even thousands of years if necessary. And then another human being can come along and read that and be in my mind and know what I was thinking. It's incredible. The invention of the book, the invention of writing, the ability to put our thoughts to paper, changed the world. It's incredible. Now here we are, 21st century. We all walk around with every single book on the planet in our pocket. We can access it at any moment. I can even just talk to my phone, right? Like, check this out. I got one of them Galaxy phones with Google Now. Check this out. How tall is Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan is 6 feet 6 inches tall.
We have all of the world's knowledge at our fingertips. And these people, these anti-science people, these anti-GMO people, these anti-vaccination people, these creationists, they willingly choose to live inside their ignorant fantasy. And they vote. And they vote. I can't say it enough. I'm losing faith in democracy. I don't want my vote canceled out by the moron down the street that does not value logic, does not value empiricism, does not value science. I want a society built on science. I want the scientists and engineers in charge of government. I want my Star Trek utopia socialist paradise. I want my technology-fueled society. I want a technology race against China. Let's get this ball rolling before I die, please. Speaking of morons, this is from vocative.com, vocative.com. I've never heard of it before. Diesel drivers in rural America have been modifying their trucks to spew out black soot, then posting pictures to the internet. Oh yeah, and they hate your Prius. In small towns across America, manly men are customizing their jacked-up diesel trucks to intentionally emit giant plumes of toxic smoke every time they rev their engines, and they call it rolling coal. And it's something they do for fun. How moronic could you be? How could you be such an idiot? These small penis men, I tell you. An entire subculture has emerged on the internet surrounding the soot-spewing pastime, where self-declared rednecks gather on Facebook pages. There's 16,000 followers. Tumblr's and Instagram has 156,000 posts to share photos and videos of their Dodge Rams, their GM Silverados, purposely poisoning the sky. As one of their memes reads, rollin' coal, let the hybrids see, a big black cloud, exhaust that's loud, watch the city boy flee. I guess they want cancer, I guess? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't have a small penis. I just don't understand where this comes from. There are things about diesel lovers and their trucks that the rest of us weren't meant to understand, like how the guttural noise of a grumbling engine sounds like music when the muffler is removed, or how the higher the lift, the bigger the tires, the better the man. As Robbie, a 25-year-old mechanic in a diesel garage in South Carolina, puts it, your truck is not just something you get from point A to point B, it's who you are. In other words, mushrooming clouds of diesel exhaust are just another way to show off your manhood. Robbie has been rolling coal since he first got his truck 12 years ago, but he admits the allure is kind of hard to put words on. It's just fun, he says. Just driving and blowing smoke and having a good time. The pollution pageantry has its origins in truck pulls, a rural motorsport where diesel pickups challenge one another to see who can pull a weighted sled the farthest. In order to have an edge, drivers started modifying their trucks to dump excessive fuel into the motor, which gave them more horsepower, torque, speed, and a better chance of winning. It also made their trucks emit black smoke. That apparently won the hearts of country boys everywhere. Today, kids will spend anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 modifying their pickups just for the purpose of emitting smoke. Adding smokestacks and smoke switches, which triggers the engine into thinking it needs more gas, or even revamping the entire fuel system. Aside from being macho, the rollin' coal culture is also a renegade one. Kids make a point of blowing smoke back at pedestrians, in addition to cop cars, rice burners. That's Japanese-made cars, which can make it dangerously difficult to see out of the windshield. Diesel soot can also be a great road rage weapon, should some wimpy-looking Honda Civic ever piss you off. If someone makes you mad, you can just roll coal, and it makes you feel better sometimes, says Ryan, a high school senior who works at the diesel garage with Robbie. The other day, I did it to this kid who was driving a Mustang with his windows down, and it was awesome. These people are idiots. The ultimate highway enemy, however, are nature nuffies, or people who drive hybrid cars, because apparently pro-earth sentiment is an offense to the diesel trucking lifestyle. The feeling around here was like everyone who drives a small car is liberal, says Ryan. I rolled coal on a Prius once just because they were tailing me. According to the Clean Air Task Force, diesel exhaust is one of the country's greatest sources of toxic pollutants and leads to 21,000 premature deaths each year. But that won't deter the coal rollers. I'm not a scientist, but it couldn't be too horrible, Robbie says. There are a lot of factories that are doing worse than my truck. It should be said that not all diesel drivers roll coal. Older enthusiasts call it a waste of fuel and think it gives their kind a bad name. But like a tobacco habit, the younger set are willing to overlook the risks. That's bad for the environment, that's definitely true, says Ryan. And some of the kids that have diesel trucks can look like tools. You can cause a wreck, but everything about it is pretty good. Oh. Can you believe this shit? I mean, here we are, 21st century. And people are intentionally modifying their trucks to spew as much pollution as possible because they think it looks cool. And they think it sets them apart from the liberals. You see what I mean when I say small penis? Small penis. I mean, come on. Seriously. It's not enough that these guys have to go out and buy these big-ass trucks. Right? It's not enough that they have to modify the suspension and put these big-ass tires on the big-ass trucks. It's not enough that they have to modify the mufflers to make them loud as possible. No. They're not getting enough attention. So they need to blow black smoke all over you. You know, so you'll notice them. America, man. America's going downhill, I'm telling you. I don't know what to say anymore. I really don't. I mean, I'm going through today's news, and it's all kind of depressing. Here's a good one. Let's go to a good one. So we kind of sort of won. The U.S. Supreme Court tells cops to get a warrant before searching cell phones. Yay! That's a minor victory, I guess. The Supreme Court unanimously ruled Wednesday that police generally may not search cell phones of arrested individuals without first obtaining a search warrant. Chief Justice John Roberts delivered the opinion of the court. Roberts wrote that cell phones are powerful tools that are able to store a digital record of nearly every aspect of people's lives. Consequently, they are different from almost anything police find on a person. A search of a person's cell phone is far more invasive to one's privacy, Roberts said. It is no exaggeration to say that many of the more than 90% of American adults who own a cell phone keep on their person a digital record of nearly every aspect of their lives, from the mundane to the intimate. The term cell phone, Roberts says, is misleading. They could just as well be called cameras, video players, Rolodexes, calendars, tape recorders, libraries, diaries, albums, televisions, maps, or newspapers. The High Court did leave the door open to searching in exigent circumstances. That's a new word on me. Roberts cited examples of suspect texting an accomplice who might be about to detonate a bomb, or a suspected child abductor who may have information about the child's location. Thank you, Supreme Court. You know, I worried about that case. I worried about that case for a long time because have you seen the Supreme Court? Those people are like halfway dead. Jesus. Oh, they're like necrotic, decrepit. It's like when the Supreme Court meets, they all leave the assisted living nursing home and then they get pushed down the street in their wheelchairs and then they're propped up in their seats. And they probably put a stick up the back of their shirt, you know, and then tape it so that they can stay up. And they probably give them drugs so they don't fall asleep during court. Supreme Court is old, man. That's what I'm saying. The Supreme Court is old. A bunch of old people. And I worried about this case because have you ever talked to an old person about computers, technology, and stuff like that? Seriously? Like, have you ever tried to tell your grandmother how to check her email? Oh, Jesus Christ. It's so difficult. They don't understand. They just don't understand, right? So I was thinking the Supreme Court would, they might actually go the other way in this case because they might not understand the importance and the significance of smartphones and how they've really become such a big part of our lives. But, hooray, we got one. We got one. All right. All right. So we the people, generally speaking, have the right for cops not to search our cell phones without a warrant. Cool. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Moving on to depressing news. Detroit is cutting off water to 150,000 residents, and now the residents are begging the United Nations for help. That's right. Shit has gotten so bad in Detroit, a city in the United States of America, and the American government is so incompetent and so not willing to help its own people that its own people have now gone running to the United Nations asking for help. This is from Slate. Desperate calls for help from the United Nations aren't just for war-torn and developing nations anymore. The city of Detroit, a city that's been on the brink, in an effort to balance its books, has begun shutting off water access to city residents behind on their payments. Now, that might seem like business as usual, but there are some key things that you need to know. Half of the 323,900 residents who use the utility are behind on their payments, and the price of the water there is double the national average. So you probably pay somewhere around $40 a month for your water. They have to pay $80 a month for their water. And this is an impoverished city that's been going under for a long time. So it's not like there's a lot of jobs there. It's not like there's a lot of prosperity. Most people are on welfare, and I mean they're barely making it. They're barely surviving. And to cut off water, I have a serious problem with this. Look, I mean, I don't care if you can pay for it or not. I mean, even the United Nations has flat out said that humans have a right to clean water, right? And look at India right now. The Indian government is paying billions upon billions of dollars to try to get clean water accessible to every last one of their 900 million citizens, right? Meanwhile, in America, we're doing the opposite. We're cutting water off to our own citizens. That's not right. We can't be proud of an America like that. Are you kidding me? And this just comes from this disease of the mind in America. This disease that people think that less government, less government, less government, less government. No! Government's what builds your roads. Government built GPS. Government built the Transcontinental Railroad. Government built your banking system. Government got us to the moon. Government does 90% of your medical science research. That's the NIH, man. They fund scientists. These scientists working on cures for your benefit. For you. You don't want less government. You want more government. I digress. So here we go in Detroit. Quote, we are asking the UN Special I don't even know what that word is. Rapporteur? To make... What is this word? Rapporteur. That's a new one on me. To make clear to the U.S. government that it has violated the human rights of water, said Maud Barlow, the national chairperson of the Council of Canadians and a key member of the coalition that put the report together. In addition to creating international pressure to stop the Detroit shutoffs, Barlow said, the UN's intervention could lead to formal consequences for the United States. Quote, if the U.S. government does not respond appropriately, this will also impact their universal periodic review, she said, when they stand before the Human Rights Council to have their human rights record evaluated. So, I mean, think about that. The UN is basically telling America, dude, chill the fuck out. Take care of your citizens. They have a right to water. Think about that. And people want to talk about how the Constitution is supposed to be this perfect document or what have you. Well, the Constitution doesn't give you a right to water. The Constitution allowed slavery, for Christ's sakes. The Constitution is not all that. The Constitution enabled a dumb idiot woman to get a gun and to wave it around and shoot at some kids. When the United Nations is telling you that you need to take care of your citizens better, then you know you've got a serious problem. This should be an embarrassment to us. Oh man, in the previous segment we started to have some audio problems there, but don't worry, I sacrificed a goat in the name of Thor, so everything should be fine now. Food fears! This is from sciencebasedmedicine.org, one of my favorite sources. A new Cornell University study examines the origins of food fears and possible remedies. It is a survey of 1,008 mothers asking about foods they avoid and why. Food fears are a common topic on science-based medicine, likely for several reasons. Humans have an inherent emotion of disgust, which is likely an adaptation to help avoid contaminated or spoiled food. In our modern society, this reflex can be tricky because we do not always have control over the chain of events that leads to food on our plates. Other people grow food, transport it, process it, and perhaps even cook it. Modern food technology can also involve many scary-sounding substances and unusual processes. As the saying goes, you may not want to know how the sausage is made as long as the end result is wholesome. I think they, in the movie Tommy Boy, they did that with the whole, hey, I might not want to see, a cow get butchered or whatever. Something about, I'm not going to shove my head up a cow's ass. I'll just take the butcher's word for it. Anyway. Shout out to Tommy Boy. That was a great movie. It's sad that dude died from drug overdose. Anyway, continuing the article, this leads to a second reason for modern food fears. We are living in an age of increasing transparency, partly brought about by the dramatic increase in access to information on the internet. I think ultimately this is a good thing. People are seeing how the sausage is made, which makes it more difficult to hide shady practices. This introduces a new problem, however. If you're going to inspect the process of making sausage, then you need to know something about sausage making. In other words, people are obtaining a great deal of information about food ingredients, and manufacturing processes, which is a good thing. However, much of this information is coming from dubious sources, non-professional or academic sources that have not been peer-reviewed in any meaningful way, and may have ulterior agendas and ideological biases. Further, it's not easy to understand any complex science, including chemistry and food science, which includes medical studies on the ingredient safety. The food babe, have you guys heard about this? The food babe, I think I talked about her last week. This is a stupid chick that's all like, well, I don't really have any skills in life, so I'll just make shit up about food. She's a charlatan. She's a snake oil salesman, and she's scamming people. It's horrendous. Anyway. The food babe has essentially made a career out of provoking irrational fear of ingredients with unsavory sources and with scary-sounding, long chemical names. Neither of these factors have anything to do with actual food safety, but they make it easy to scare the non-expert. Specifically, this includes so-called chemophobia, which is the fear of chemicals. The problem with this food babe, chemophobic approach is that everything is a chemical. As the banana graphic above demonstrates, the formal chemical names, even for everyday food molecules, are long and unfamiliar to non-chemists. Let's go back and check that out. All natural banana. These are the ingredients of a banana. Water, glucose, fructose, sucrose, maltose, starch, fiber, amino acids, glutamic acid, aspartic acid, histidine, leucine, lysine, phenylalanine, agronine, valine, alanine, sarin, glycine. I'm not a chemist. Jesus. Some of these things sound scary to me. And bananas are perfectly healthy. Isn't that crazy how that works? When you actually break down everything to its chemical components, it sounds kind of scary. But, I digress. The end result is that people use shortcuts or heuristics to determine what food they trust and what food to avoid. One heuristic is the natural false dichotomy. If something seems natural, it is healthy. And if it seems synthetic, it should be avoided. This heuristic rapidly breaks down on two main counts. The first is that there is no good operational definition of natural. All food is altered by humans or processed in some way. So where do you draw the line? The second is that something occurring in nature is no guarantee of safety. Most things in nature will harm or even kill you. Many plants and animals have evolved toxins specifically to harm anything that tries to eat it. Another food heuristic, one explicitly endorsed by Food Babe, is the chemophobia heuristic. It has a long chemical name that is difficult to pronounce, therefore it's scary. Yet another heuristic is to avoid anything about which anyone expresses fear or concern. This tactic is to essentially err on the side of caution in response to any expression of risk regarding a food. This strategy obviously occurs along a spectrum, but even a moderate degree of precautionary principles can be put a great deal of power in the hands of internal fearmongers. The fear-mongering heuristic is also related to another one, which is to separate foods into good foods and bad foods. Bad foods would be avoided at all time in any amounts. This derives partly from a desire for simplicity and control, boiling all the complexity of diet and nutrition down to a simple list of naughty and nice. The reality is that health effects of eating most food are about proportions. Most things are fine in moderation. Let's get back to the recent survey. They found that food fears were associated with wanting others to know about your food choices and deriving food information from the internet rather than TV or other sources. One might conclude from this that the internet drives food fears, which would seem to be a reasonable conclusion. However, there are too many potential confounding factors to make any statement about cause and effect. The survey also found that mothers with food fears were not more willing to pay more for food without the scary ingredients than mothers with less food fears. This again is difficult to interpret. One potentially encouraging result of the survey is that the effects of food fears were mitigated by providing information about the food. This would suggest that attempts to educate the public about the real nature and scientific evidence regarding a demonized food could reduce irrational fears. The limitation of the survey was that the results were only assessed immediately, so it's difficult to tell if there's any long-term effect. So the conclusion of this study is irrational and faddish food fears now seem to be part of culture, worsened by the immense flow of information over the internet. Food Babe. Most of which is unvetted. This results in some people avoiding perfectly harmless ingredients based on unfounded fear-mongering. As we've seen, this can also lead to pressure being placed on food manufacturers to eliminate the harmless ingredient, just to avoid the effects of fear-mongering. Further, irrational fear-mongering about food provides unintentional cover for the ingredients that should be limited or avoided. This results from two factors. The first is simply burying the useful information under piles of misinformation. The second is replacing a science-based assessment of reliable information about the real risk versus benefits of food with blah, blah, blah. Internet food warriors are promoting an unscientific approach to food safety based upon their naturalistic fallacy, chemophobia, the demonization of food ingredients, and misapplication of precautionary principle. So there you have it. Food Babe's a fucking idiot. She peddles nonsense and fear. She's taking advantage of people. It's like Alex Jones, you know? Alex Jones is just taking advantage of people. He's just rabble-rousing. Rah, 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 the government coming to get you. Oh my God, the government gonna come get you. The government, it's tyranny. Tyranny. Fascism, tyranny. Obama, fascist. And people listen to that crap and they're all like, oh my God, this man is speaking so much sense. I want to buy his t-shirt. You know what Alex Jones is doing now? He's pushing this male enhancement formula. That's right. You too could be a rah, rah, rah. Well, he's a snake oil salesman. He's a con man. He's in it for the money, just like Food Babe. Food Babe saw that Mike Adams, that health ranger, whatever the fuck that is, he's the guy who came up with that term, health ranger. This guy has no scientific background whatsoever. And he has this horrible website called Natural News. And it's all bullshit. All of it is just bullshit. And he promotes the craziest, most unscientific crap. Everything from crystal healing to chiropractors to homeopathic medicine to anti-vaccine, anti-GMO. It's all there. And so this food babe saw that this dude was like making a killing off of this stuff. You just peddle nonsense to the ignorant and you make money, right? So she saw that that was working out for a health ranger dumbass. So she was like, hey, I'm quasi cute. I take some good photos sometimes. So I'll start my own website and I'll push my own bullshit, right? And it's been working. She has a huge following. She has fans out the wazoo on her Facebook. And the only thing that she does is just go from food product to food product going, oh my God, this is not safe. It's not safe because I say so, because it has an ingredient in it that I can't pronounce, therefore it's unsafe. Like, let me tell you what she did with Subway, right? Subway had this ingredient that is also in yoga mats. And the ingredient during the baking process of the bread helps the bread to rise, right? It helps the bread to rise. So that ingredient was in their bread for years and years and years, and it was perfectly safe. Perfectly safe. Perfectly safe. I can't say this enough. But it was also put in yoga mats, right? Because the ingredients don't always just work for food, right? Sometimes you can get a chemical that works in a manufacturing process, you know? That doesn't mean that they were putting a yoga mat chemical in their bread. It means that they were putting a bread chemical in yoga mats, right? You with me? So Food Babe went on a tirade and was all, oh my God, Subway's poisoning people with a yoga mat chemical, right? And Subway was just like, oh, they face palmed and they were like, oh God, like this level of stupidity, we can't even argue against it. So let's just take it out. And I think it's a shame that they did that. I think they should stand up to these stupid, anti-intellectual, snake oil charlatans, man. That's what they are. I wish companies would stand up a little more often. You know, I'm an anti-corporate liberal, and I want the billion-dollar corporations to stand up to these anti-science lunatics. Think about that. Think about how much I have to dislike these anti-science lunatics in order for me to say, yeah, well, maybe the corporations should stick up for themselves. I mean, just imagine how much that hurts me to say that. Subway don't have a union. You want to do something helpful for your fellow man? Get a union at Subway. Get those sandwich makers a union. Get them a living wage. That's another thing we need to talk about today. It is time to raise the minimum wage in America. German workers are making $28 an hour minimum wage. Australian workers are making $18, $19 minimum wage. This is embarrassing. America's still living in 1986. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We are still living in 1986. It's time to raise the minimum wage. On the David Pakman show recently, I think it's davidpakman.com or davidpakmanshow.com, one of the two. It's one of my favorite shows. That's an up-and-coming liberal talk show host that I like him. I like him a lot. He had this libertarian on his show recently to come on, and he was gonna say that minimum wage is bad because it's gonna reduce jobs. Whenever somebody says that, you just do what David Pakman did. Just ask them to provide you an example in history where that has ever happened. Because we've raised the minimum wage several times in this country. And if you can go back and if you can show that when we've raised the minimum wage, we've lost jobs, then you win. But you can't do that because there is no example in history of minimum wage causing people to lose their jobs. And the reason why is very simple. When you raise the wage on employees, they have more money. So they spend more, they buy more, they go out to eat more, they do things more, they travel more, they buy a better car, they buy a couch, they buy a TV, they buy things. And when they buy things, the economy booms. When the economy booms, companies make money. So when you raise the minimum wage, suddenly everybody has more money to buy more things. All of these companies make more money. More people can afford to go to Subway and buy a sandwich. More people can afford to go to Five Guys and buy a burger. Get these people a living wage. And I don't want no 10 an hour. I don't want $10.10 an hour. I want us to get up there with the rest of the world. We need $15, $18, $20, $25 an hour minimum wage in America. Let's grow some balls and let's get this done. Oh, this show's going to be so much better once we go to a live format and I can take some calls. But first, we got to get our viewership up. We got to get our listenership up. We have to get people enjoying the program so that we can have a pool of callers to go to. So let's burn through a couple of more of these as we're rounding out the People's Radio, June 26, 2014. Hey, if you're listening to this program, share it on Facebook. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Pinterest. Share it wherever you go to hang out. Share it on Reddit. You have my permission. You can share this. You can get us some more listeners. This is listener supported. Absolutely. So let's do it. Come on. Let's push the labor movement in America. Let's push a pro-union message in America. Let's push a pro-science message in America. Let's push a pro-liberal sustainable living message in America. Let's get Congress on minimum wage. Wouldn't that be nice? If we could just get Congress on minimum wage. Check that. This is old news, but I had to go over it because it's extremely important for this program. This is December 2013. There's apparently a sustainable community in Texas, right? It's called the Garden of Eden community, right? And basically, this is just, a little hippie commune where these people have set up a sustainable community. And the community, it's solar power. They grow their own food. They collect their own water, all that good stuff, right? So Texas doesn't like that. How did they respond? This is from collectivevolution.com. Earlier this year, the state of Texas brought several SWAT teams. Yeah, I'm not joking. SWAT teams to the quiet and peaceful Garden of Eden community and threatened its existence in what appeared to be an intimidation tactic. Only a single arrest was made based on an outstanding traffic ticket. And a handful of citations were given for city code violations. Absolutely no drug-related charges were found, and all inhabitants of the community were unharmed. So it was a hippie commune, and they didn't even grow weed there. But the city was so threatened by the hippies that they had to go with their freaking assault rifles and their SWAT teams. Are you kidding me? This is insanity. Each of the community members present in the house were initially handcuffed at gunpoint by armed SWAT officers. This included the mother of a 22-month-old and a 2-week-old baby. As part of the raid, many of the crops were destroyed by officers. This included wild and cultivated plants, blackberries, okra. Man, those cops got to protect us from the blackberries, huh? Officers also proceeded to remove a variety of materials they had planned to use in sustainable projects like pallets, tires, and cardboard. Them cops are really protecting us, aren't they? Man, cops have become jackbooted thugs, man. The Garden of Eden community is a sustainable community geared towards living a high-vibing lifestyle. Outside the confines of how the average person would live. The community believes in coming together to produce basic necessities of life, and they support each other through each step. It's a hippie commune. They grow their own food, they live peacefully, and since 2009, they've been providing food and shelter and sustainable education classes to the public for free. Right? Landowner Sheila Smith says that she's going to, file complaints. We need to check that out and see whatever happened to it. That's just crazy, man. Set up a hippie commune in America now, and SWAT teams come to take your cardboard and your blackberries. Think about that. America's going to go down in history as a fascist, empirical, British colonialism empire. It's just insanity. Now, the reason why I brought that story up was because this just recently happened in my own state of Florida, the state that God apparently hates and has left to ruin. Florida makes living off the grid illegal. It is no secret that an opposition to sustainable living exists. Earlier this year, Texas brought in a SWAT team to a sustainable town, blah, blah, blah. This time, though, it's Robin Spironis that has come under fire. She lives off the grid in Florida, completely independent of the city's water and electric system. A few weeks ago, officials ruled her off-grid home illegal. Officials cited the International Property Maintenance Code, which mandates that homes be connected to an electricity grid and running water source. That's just like saying our dependency on corporations isn't even a choice. The battle to live without most utilities has been ongoing for Robin. The self-sufficient woman has lived for more than a year and a half using solar energy, a propane camping stove, and rainwater that she catches. In the end, she was found not guilty of having proper sewer electrical systems, but was guilty of not being hooked up to approved water supply. You know, I'm a liberal, and I talk about how we need more government and more government regulations, and that's true. That's true. You want more government regulations when it comes to certain things like the safety of your car, workman's comp and work safety. Like, you want to mandate that people provide a safe working environment for their employees. You want to mandate that companies, offer a decent wage and good health care for their employees. You want to mandate that auto manufacturers, make a decent engine that doesn't pollute the air. You want to mandate that, electrical light bulbs are, more efficient or what have you. There are tons of regulations that the government can enforce that are great ideas, like the EPA. Don't get me started on that because the Supreme Court, we'll get to that next. Actually, the EPA, you want them to make sure your air is clean and your water is clean. Those are good regulations. But when the government comes along and starts talking about, you have to be hooked up to our utility and you have to pay us money every month. That's some BS, man. That's some bullcrap, man. Leave these hippies alone. Let them live their sustainable life. Let them live their renewable energy life. Let them live off the grid. Does not bother me. Does not pick my pocket. Leave them alone. I hope to have my own hippie commune one day. Really, seriously. I'm thinking about land in Colorado. I want to move my family out there and just be alone, have my own pond, and just go out and fish. Honey, I caught dinner. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Maybe a stream running through and I can learn to fly fish, and come home with some rainbow trout every night. Got dinner, honey. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be nice? Have my own solar power. Just sit out. Just enjoy nature and be with my family. That would be nice. At least a secondary home, maybe not the primary home. Moving on, Supreme Court. This makes me mad. This makes me furious. Now, we talked about on People's Radio before, what the EPA is doing is they're operating under the Clean Air Act, and they're saying, damn it, if Congress is not going to do something about global warming and climate change, then we must. We have to. And they were supposedly going to use the Clean Air Act in order to tell companies to cut that shit out. Stop your carbon dioxide overproduction. Stop. Basically, they were going to regulate how much carbon dioxide could be emitted by power plants and industry using the Clean Air Act. Well, the Supreme Court has struck that shit down. That's right. The Supreme Court struck down the Environmental Protection Agency's carbon dioxide permitting scheme for power plants and other large facilities, saying that the agency exceeded its authority under the Clean Air Act. The EPA has been requiring facilities emitting more than 100,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year to get permits. The agency, however, had to tailor the rule to accommodate regulating carbon dioxide emitting facilities under the Clean Air Act. So the Supreme Court protects our cell phones, but doesn't protect our air and water. Think about that. Think about that. Which brings me to John Boehner. Boehner is going to sue President Obama for being the president. House Speaker John Boehner confirmed Wednesday that he will file a federal lawsuit challenging the executive actions of President Barack Obama, despite supporting President George W. Bush's extensive use of executive authority. This is from Think Progress. Boehner said in a news conference, the Constitution... Wait, hold on. Wait. This is John Bonner we're talking about here, so it's... the Constitution makes it clear that no, wait, doesn't he have a lisp? He's got a lisp, don't he? So he's like, the Constitution makes it clear that, I don't know, I can't talk like Daffy Duck. That's what he talks like, though. If you ever listen to him, he's got a lisp. He talks like if Daffy Duck was a smoker. Because the dude's a smoker. He smokes like 2 packs a day. Anyway, he said, the Constitution makes it clear the president's job is to faithfully execute the laws, and in my view, the president has not faithfully executed the laws. He added that the suit was about defending the institution in which we serve, because what we've seen clearly over the past 5 years is an effort to erode the power of the legislative branch. He refused to say which specific actions he believes to be illegal. President Obama has issued 180 executive orders, a power that's been utilized by every single president since George Washington. Boehner spokesman denounced these as a clear record of ignoring the American people's elected representatives and exceeding his constitutional authority, which has dangerous implications for both our system of government and our economy. But Boehner embraced the power of a Republican president to take action, even at times when he would circumvent Congress by doing so. President George W. Bush has issued hundreds of orders of his own over his 8 years in office. In 2001 and 2007, Boehner strongly supported unilateral actions by Bush to prevent embryonic stem cell research involving new embryos, saying the 2001 decision to preserve the sanctity of life and allows limited research that could help millions of Americans suffering from life-threatening disease. He endorsed 2008 Bush executive order to limit earmarks. In the final days of Bush's second term, he even wrote to the president asking him to use an executive order to exempt a historic steamboat from safety regulations after Congress opted not to do so. Boehner even pushed for administrative compliance with one of President Obama's executive orders. In 2010, he asked Obama for a progress report on implementation of an executive order banning taxpayer funding for abortion and Obamacare. In a letter to then Secretary of Health and Human Services Kathleen Sebelius, he noted that the order had paved the way for the law's passage and that the lack of update on implementation does little to diminish widespread skepticism about the administrative's commitment to enforcing the executive order and preventing the law from increasing federal support for abortion. As of February, Obama has issued fewer executive orders than all but one other president since World War II. So Obama's not even issuing a lot of executive orders. He's issuing fewer than most presidents. And Boehner, being against Obama flat out, is like, hey, you can't do that. You can't do executive orders, even though he has a long history of totally supporting executive orders. You like how that double standard works? See, when a Republican president does executive orders, oh, that's fine. No problem there. Let's go to Iraq. Let's kill some children. Let's bomb Iran. Let's go to war. But when a Democrat president does executive orders, oh, that's un-American, man. We got to sue him. Sue him? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They're going to sue the president for using his presidential powers. This is America in the 21st century. What the hell is wrong with us? This is why I don't believe in democracy anymore. I don't. I can no longer support democracy. Congress controls this country, and that is the dumbest group of people I've ever seen together. Watch C-SPAN. Watch C-SPAN. When you're sitting around and you don't really have much to do, turn on C-SPAN. Turn it on one day. When you get sick, you sit home from work, you break your leg at work because of lack of safety regulations, or if you get fired because you don't have a union to protect your ass and you're sitting at home on the couch, turn on C-SPAN. I'm telling you, it is an eye-opening experience. That is the dumbest group of people the freaking world has. I could randomly select people. I could just randomly select 400 people from planet Earth's population. Random. I bet you I could go to Africa and just randomly select 400 people. And they would still be smarter and more competent and more capable than that group of freaking idiots that we got in Congress right now. They don't support you. They're not there for you. They are there to push their corporate agendas. They should wear NASCAR jerseys because they're just bought politicians. They don't care about you. You don't have a lobbyist lobbying them. You don't have campaign donations large enough to make them notice you. They don't care about you. They care about Walmart, and they care about GE, and they care about Lockheed Martin, and they care about Boeing, and they care about all of the big business out there. They do not care about you. They don't care about you, and they're all morons. Thanks for tuning in to the People's Radio.